amazing... Hello, welcome to the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. It's the top 16 superstars for the North America region. We're back in action today. My name is Tom Brooks, alongside me, Jimmy Broadbent. Jimmy, let's get straight into it then, shall we? Nations Cup action coming up first of all. The Suzuka Circuit, Group 3 cars. This is a tantalising prospect for the drivers, isn't it?
That's right, Suzuka, definitely a driver's favourite, one of my favourites too. And one of those circuits that always means strategy, always gives you a strategic mind to play with. Tyre wear around here is pretty severe, and our drivers, of course, as always, have to use each compound of tyre, hard, medium and soft. Alongside that, 5 times tyre wear rate means that pitting and finding the right place to pit is going to be essential for race results.
Yep, absolutely right. Well, let's get ready then, shall we? And head over to the grid to get this one underway. Here's how the grid lines up then at Suzuka for the Nations Cup race for the North America region. You can see a field of GTRs in these Group 3 cars. On pole position, Danny Solis lines up at the head of the field. Top qualifying there then from him. Alongside him, Andrew Brooks, the man who dominated things for the North America region back in round 3. Mark Pinnell lines up in the head of the second row of the grid. Alongside him, Randall Hayward in the very purple GTR. Lovely looking machine. That Kevin Pounder is in 5th position, the third row of the grid there for him. Alongside him is Parker, also in another purple GTR. Getting towards the back end of the top 10, got Robbie Heck, and he is in a very lovely looking car with Leslie alongside him. The final row of the grid inside that top 10 is comprised of Grove in 9th position. And alongside him then is the Toyota Supra of Lynch. Interesting call there. Wenzel lines up in 11th position. And then alongside him, it is the Volkswagen GTI Vision Gran Turismo car of Carey from Canada. Stewart lines up 13th. Holman in 14th position. And then towards the back of the grid, the final row is Helt in 15th in the Toyota Supra. And then in 16th position, the Mazda Atenza Group 3 of Scavaland, also from Canada there as well. So, Jimmy, we get our first look at the tyre compounds for these drivers. Top 4 starting on softs.
I'm just impressed that there's more than one non-GTR in this race. It's GTRs as far as the eye can see usually, and not quite the case this time around. Yep, we've got 4 runners at the start on the soft compound tyre, looking to try and break away early. We have seen in other races people go for the free stop strategy, which means 2 stints on the softs, then a medium and hard compound usage towards the end. We'll see if Danny does that. Of course, Andrew Brooks behind as well. He's off the back of a win last time out on Nations Cup. Incredibly fast is Andrew Brooks, so we'll keep an eye on him as well. Kevin Pounder, the first of the medium runners, what can he do, I wonder? It's always good to see the alternative strategies play out, but no one opting to start on hard, Tom.
No, interesting that. So let's see how it's all going to play out then over the course of these 16 laps. The North America region for the Nations Cup race about to get underway. Danny Solis, top qualifying from him, as we said, will lead the 2 Canadians. First of all, over the timing line of Andrew Brooks and Mark Pinnell. Are they going to be able to cause an upset in the opening stage of this race? Very few overtaking opportunities here at Suzuka, but we get the North America Nations Cup race for the top 16 superstars underway then here in Japan. Over the timing line, everybody comes, everybody in the slipstream there as they try and get an advantage on their fellow competitors. Quite a big pronounced gap there, back to 16th position as we can see, but through the first corner, Solis holds on to his lead. That's the advantage of having a rolling start in this one, is you don't have many dives down towards that first corner, and this first sector in particular, as we said, is very tight and does reward the brave. However, it's not the easiest place to get past, especially on these opening couple of laps as the drivers are trying to get heat into their tyres. But a nice calm start there from everybody, Jimmy, so just keeping their noses clean at the moment.
Yes, as you said, Tom, you would have noticed coming down the T1 a bit of weaving going on just to make sure there's some heat in the tyres before you get down the T1, and even so, some of the cars are slipping and sliding coming through the S's as we come through the Degnas for the first time with Pinnell in that very obnoxious gold livery. You know what, I kind of like it. It stands out at least. That's a good livery, I think, if it stands out. Coming down the hairpin for the first time. We're looking back, that's Randall Hayward there. Of course, fellow GTR. The Nissan GTR Group 3 car, definitely the car of choice, it seems, here today, with a good 95% of the field opting to take it. across pretty much every region so far. But what that does mean, unless you're Mr. Lynch here, is that you're pretty much on an equal playing field. So it's all about driver skill.
Yeah, there are strengths and weaknesses to different cars. I'm interested to see what the strengths of the Toyota Supra are compared to the GTR. Maybe it'll have an advantage in straight line speed or corner speed. At the moment, he's doing a good job of keeping Grove honest there in P8. Both of those drivers on the medium competitive tyres, so they should have relatively similar pace to one another. Meanwhile, here is Andrew Brooks taking the lead away from Danny Solis, coming down the back straight into 130R. So the Canadian driver who started P2 now leads the way towards the end of lap 1.
Yeah, good friends are Brooks and Solis, so I didn't see Danny fighting that too hard. We'll see though he comes back at him down towards T1. You might remember back to Monaco last year when Danny Solis won the Repecharge race. Who was the first person to run over and give him a hug? It's Andrew Brooks here, who's leading the race at the moment. So, yeah, I would say I don't expect anything too aggressive between these two, but same with Mark Pinnell behind as well. Also part of the same team, I believe. So, of course, all these guys pretty quick together, as well as Randall Haywood. So we'll see how these guys break away. They're all in a soft compound tyre, and they're all kind of, I think, just trying to get to the point where they're just not having to worry about the guys behind. Speaking of, Kevin Pounder and Mr. Heck. Do we know Heck's first name, Tom?
Robbie.
That one? Robbie Heck, there you go. Sorry, Robbie. As we say, we do our best to learn everyone's names. We don't get a sheet usually with the names on, but so Robbie Heck on board, coming up to the Degner. So this is really interesting when you're this close to the guy in front, because the Degner's a really fast kind of flat-out corner. When you're so close to the guy in front, if he brakes just a tiny bit earlier than you, he's getting sent off to the shadow realm.
You've been spending too much time with Super GT with quotes like that. I was
Not enough time,
talking.
I miss him.
There's never enough time you can spend with Super GT. I was actually referencing in the EMEA region races that the Degners aren't really a place to find the way past, and Martin Grady swiftly corrected me and said, well, you should have watched my onboard throughout the race because I was sending it down the inside there. So it's a corner that clearly rewards the brave, and speaking of being brave, here comes Robbie Heck trying to send one down the inside at Spoon of Kevin Pounder. Bit of a pronounced gap going on here because Pounder, of course, is on the slower medium compound of tyre compared to Heck being on the soft, and you can see how much more grip he has got underneath him coming out of Spoon Curve. Pounder goes defensive coming down this back straight, heading in towards 130R. He's going to dart to the inside though, as Heck, as a gap begins to appear. They run side by side into 130R, and that is a beautiful bit of driving there from Robbie Heck. He moves into 5th position, and now he can try and close down that 2-second deficit to Randall Haywood in 4th.
Yeah, I think Kevin really just let that happen at that point. You saw him big lift on the way in as well, and something that we haven't really mentioned is there is fuel in this race. You do have to add a bit of fuel to get to the end, so when you're doing that, and how much fuel you have to add, of course, depends on your driving when you're out on circuit, obviously. So if you're there lifting and coasting a bit, you're going to end up probably saving that little bit of fuel and not having as long a stop. We saw that come into play in the EMEA region Nations Cup race the other day. So we're on board now with Randall Haywood. He is in 4th position on the soft compound tyre. Up ahead of us are the leaders, Daniel Solis. Directly ahead is Mark Pinnell in the GTR, surprise, surprise. Coming through the Dunlop curve now. The Dunlop curve is one of those really frustrating corners that you never really seem to get right, and then when you think you do get it right, you go a bit too wide, grab the grass, end up in the barrier. So, or maybe that's just me. Maybe everyone else is a lot better than I am.
No, it's definitely me as well, mate, to be honest with you. That's why we're not competing on these races. Look at Leslie there, getting very liberal with the track limits, and too liberal, in fact, a half-second penalty he's picked up right on cue. Well, there you go. That just goes to show that if you do exceed track limits, you will pick up a penalty such as that. It's all automated within the game, and he'll serve that penalty coming out of the Spoon Curve on towards the back straight. One thing I was just about to say is the gap between the top 4, it's not as big as we've seen in other races, actually, in other regions here, Jimmy. It's only sitting at about just under 2 seconds there and thereabouts between these guys, so it's still pretty close. They're all within the same camera shots at least.
Yeah, I mean, dirty air isn't really a massive thing in these Group 3 cars. There is a little bit of downforce, of course, as you can see by the gigantic wing on the back of these GTRs, but it's not the same as, say, a Group 2 car, especially not a Group 1 car. So you can follow quite closely through here. There's an example there, 130R. A little bit of a dab of the brakes for Randall Haywood because to slow down because he's carrying more speed because of that draft. But otherwise, he can follow quite closely. So really, I think what's happening now is we're on board with Randall there, again, also being quite liberal with his track limits. Is that he's stuck behind Mark. He's stuck behind Pinnell in front. He can't get by. There's no way. Like, it's just that little bit quicker, but not enough to actually make the move stick. So we'll see what happens here. Now, regarding track limits, we did mention it before. You might think, well, why didn't Randall get a penalty there, and why did Mr. Leslie get one at the Sardegna? It's because the track limits exist the same for everyone. There are spots where you can be a little bit cheeky, and spots where you'll get a big slap from the penalty bot. So part of taking part in these events and being a racing driver in real life too is learning where those parts are, learning where those parts of the circuits are. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be just giving away time to everyone else. So here's Lynch, who are on board right now, one of the medium runners. He's finding his way up through the through Dunlop right now. Nice to see him running okay. Nice to see him taking colour. Isn't the GTR? Of course, we are in the Group 3 Super here. We haven't seen much of that at all. I think this is the first time I've seen the Super at all over the course of these Nations Cup races. So to see it just inside the top 10 is nice at least. Hopefully he can do a bit better.
Very distinctive looking colour scheme on that car there for Lynch in the bright yellow machine. Speaking of distinctive colour schemes, Mark Pinnell in that gold chrome livery car has got Randall Hayward trying to find his way through, getting very close indeed. These two just running nose to tail at the moment as they come through that spoon curve. Can Hayward get a good exit there? Pinnell's a little bit wide going through that corner. Is that going to compromise his run coming onto this back straight? Hayward comes back into the slipstream, but it looks like Pinnell got away pretty well out of that turn as they come under the bridge and head towards 130R. Again, he's just close, but not close enough to mount that attack, and you really need to be sure that you're going to be able to trust in your other competitor when you're making a move at a circuit such as this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at Randall's inputs, and they don't look too severe. And what I mean by that is he's not, getting on the gas straight away coming out the corner or, after the braking zone. He's being a little bit lazy with it, which says to me he's saving a little bit of fuel. He was shifting to sixth quite early as well before. Down the straight, not quite as severe as he was coming up to 130R, but I think he's just aware that he can't really get past right now, so he'll save a bit of fuel and try and jump him maybe in one of the stops. But bear in mind that all the time he's stuck here, look at the distance, that gap now to second place is growing every lap. 3.6 seconds that is now, and that's almost a pit stop. A pit stop around here is about 6 seconds, 5 seconds around there, maybe a bit longer. I know it differs from circuit to circuit, but you're getting to the point now where they're going to be able to make a stop and still have a little bit of a gap.
So then what is he going to be able to do, Randall Hayward? Will he be able to find his way through? Meanwhile, Kevin Pounder, after Robbie Heck has found his way through, has dropped back by 3 seconds in 6th position. I tell you what, Grove is not looking too bad here. He's only actually half a second behind Leslie, the driver who we saw with that half-second penalty from the Degna's corner cut earlier on. Here comes Hayward though, trying to send it up the inside of Pinnell. That is beautiful there. Late on the brakes, clean as you like. A textbook pass into the hairpin, and he's through with a bit of clear air now into P3.
There you go. Had to get that done, did Randall. I think, as we said before, he was just getting held up, and I think he saw his chance and just took it. Now, what will be interesting to watch now is to see whether Randall actually manages to pull away from Mark behind. Keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, here's our leader, Andrew Brooks, as we said. Interesting to see him not qualify on pole position. We tend to be a very strong qualifier, although Danny has had Danny Solis behind has had a good form of late as well. But rectifying that in the race and then some. 1.7 seconds now is the gap to Danny Solis behind.
Yeah, very impressive stuff there from Andrew Brooks and Danny Solis. Just to give you an idea of the difference in pace between these drivers. Last time around, Andrew Brooks was a 157.342, Danny Solis a 157.6. These guys on exactly the same tyre compounds in exactly the same machines, and Brooks is just able to stretch out that gap. Well, he hasn't done it so over this lap, but he's kept it at pretty much a constant, and even on last time around he was over 0.3 of a second faster than this man in second position at the moment. So that's really impressive there from Andrew Brooks, just doing exactly what he needs to do, and what we know he can do so well is just lead from the front. We can see Wenzel making the second pit stop, so he went onto the hard tyre after his first stop, onto the softer compound. Scavaland as well goes a different strategy, making his first pit stop down in P16, not really featured too much in this race. After qualifying at the back of the grid, he goes from the soft tyre to the hard. Meanwhile, here is the train of cars in third position of Randall Hayward, Mark Pinnell and Robbie Heck very close behind. Kevin Pounder was not too far adrift of these guys, given the tyre compound that he is running there as well, so he's in a good position here when he changes over at the end of his first stint in this one. But through the Degna curves now, Hayward's pace, I'm just having a look at this on the timing screens last time around, was a little bit faster actually than Mark Pinnell. He was a 158.7, whereas Pinnell was a 159.6. However, this gap has not increased that much over the last couple of laps, so I'm interested to see how it's going to change and whether Pinel is going to be able to mount something before these stop. I don't think he's quite close enough at the moment here, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think he's just Pinel just seems to be dropping back a little bit now, and of course that's going to be a good thing for Robbie Heck behind. But as you see, look how much more speed he carries into the apex. The second part of Spoon there suffers a bit on exit because of it, and you see there why it's important to get a good exit out of a Spoon curve, because then you lose that time all the way up the straight if you do make a mistake. I just wanted to make a quick point when you're talking about them. Wenzel and Scaveland at the bottom of the field there. Whilst they might be at the bottom of the field here, please remember this is the top 16 superstars. These are the best drivers of the region. I say that, and Kevin Pounder goes round. Kevin, mate, I'm trying to be nice to you guys, and you go and do that to me. Come on, man. That's a big spin for Kevin. That's going to put him out of contention. Just about gets it going again, but that's something that's very easy to do here at Suzuka. Bear in mind, right on the exit curb, you've got a bit of very slippy AstroTurf. You put one curb in there, whilst that tyre is loaded up, and, well, yep, that's it. That's what happens.
Dear, oh dear. Well, there we are. The commentator's curse is alive and well from Jimmy Broadbent, and the irony is he had his wipers going at that. Yeah, the eyes of wipers going at that particular time, but he still clearly couldn't see where he was going very well. Kevin Pounder there. He goes on to the hard tyre, decides to pit and just completely write that lap off. I'm not surprised at all. He's going to get that tyre off as soon as he possibly can and, well, start whatever recovery he can have. And that is disappointing there for Kevin because he was doing very well. But as Jimmy said, just one wheel on the curb, lit it up on the rear. Around she went. So now this battle between P4 and P5 still continues on between Pinel, the Canadian, and Heck, the American. A bit wide there out of that corner for Heck as he's just trying to stretch the limits and do whatever he can to close that gap up to Pinel at the moment. Lap 7 out of 16 we're on, so we're coming up towards the halfway stage in this race as Heck also gets a big old slide on coming out of that hairpin. Just how difficult is it, Jimmy, when you're coming towards the end of the tyre's usable life, as these soft tyres now will be, and you're trying to fight the car underneath you, but try and keep that gap consistently close to the competitor in front?
Well, it's tricky on two fronts, really, Tom. I mean, first of all, of course, as you can see, you want to get close to the guy in front, so you start pushing the tyres a bit more, you start pushing those fronts, they start getting warmer, they start wearing more. It's a bit of a cycle, really, and add into that, because we are a bit sadistic here at GT, we give them a 5 times multiplier on their tyre wear, meaning that going out there and doing one lap on the tyre is 5 times the tyre wear, so 5 laps of tyre wear. Means that they change lap to lap, and it gets very tricky to keep up with. So, speaking of tyre wear, Danny Solis in for his first stop. He's going soft, so that means, in my eyes, Tom, and we're going to try and keep as big a hang of this as possible, he'll be doing 3 stops, and it will be a medium tyre and hard tyre on lap 15 and lap 16, but soft until then. That is what I think will happen.
A lot of other drivers opting to come into the pit lane as well. The vast majority of the medium runners coming in here as well, as you can see, varying different strategies going on. Pounder and Grove going from the hards and mediums respectively onto the softer compound tyres, others going to the mediums, some going towards the softs and the hard tyres. Drivers who are on the hard tyres, by the way, there is a minimum tyre life usage of 1 lap in this, so they will try and get off those hard tyres as soon as they possibly can. We're expecting them to only run them for 1 lap, then they'll be in the pits again for another stop next time around. Meanwhile, look at this between Solis and Haywood, because Solis is really close on the back, because of course Haywood has not made that pit stop, so Solis needs to find his way through very quickly indeed here. He's got quicker tyres underneath him, he's got a quicker car, and he has got second position coming into that hairpin as well. That's crucial for Solis here.
Surprised why Round didn't fight that too much. I'd say these guys are, I think, affiliated with the same team, the same sim racing team. But that's where you want to fight, really. Speaking of fighting, look, these guys are still at it. Robbie Eck and Mark Prenell. This time, Robbie on the inside at the moment. They've both made a stop. Now, Mark is on the slower compounder tyre, and I think what's happened there is that he's just been overhauled. It's quite hard to defend when you're on the slower tyre. You have to bear in mind that I think over the course of a lap, what do we say, about maybe 0.8 of a second, nearly a second a lap difference between the soft and the medium tyre around there.
Okay, so 1.1 seconds.
1.1,
to the graphics we have.
Even more than that. So you try and defend from a car that's 1.1 seconds a lap faster. It's quite difficult. In comes Andrew Brooks in for his first stop.
So I think he's 2-stopping here because he's going softs to mediums. He's got 36 litres of fuel left on board. Is he going to take any juice on board in his car? Don't think he is at the moment. Just a quick, simple tyre stop then here. Oh, no, he is taking fuel on board. I say that. So likewise, I think that Randall Haywood is going to do the same here as well. So he's copying the same strategy as Andrew Brooks. Of course, he's a little bit further down in position. Here is Danny Solis now out in the lead of this race, but of course he is 3 stopping. He's got to make another stop. So that 4-second gap at the moment isn't going to be enough for him to retain the lead over Andrew Brooks. But of course he is on a quicker compound of tyre here, Jimmy. So this could be quite interesting actually, because if he can stretch that gap out to 6.5 seconds, he'll have, well, 7 seconds to be safe. He'll have about a free pit stop on board there.
Yeah, he'll want that, of course, and that's kind of what you want to try and do if you're on that free stop strategy. Is you have to have a really fast race. You've said it before, and I guess I'll say it again. But the way the free stop strategy works is you essentially just get your head down and go as fast as you can for the entire race. If you make any sort of mistake, if you get caught up behind anyone, then you are losing the advantage of running on a faster tyre. So Danny Solis really has to push it now, and as you say, you know, with Andrew Brooks on the medium tyre, this could be an advantage. We'll have to see what happens. We're on board with Brooks now. You can just about see in the distance Danny Solis just almost in our frame at the moment. So everyone's made their pit stop now. A couple people on 2 pit stops at the moment. Here's a fight a bit further down the field. It's Leslie versus Grove, both in the Nissan GTR, which of course is it's an amazing machine. He says it's a non-biased person. but
do you own a Nissan GTR, Jimmy?
Oh, yeah, I own a Skyline. Thank you for asking. I don't know if you... Anyway,
you never mentioned about it. I mean, that's the thing. It's always so subtle.
I'm very quiet about it. Oh man, what a loser. Anyway, so yeah, these guys squabbling right now. What I was going to say is, I understand that, you know, how the Nations Cup works and the drivers get to choose their own car, but I would have liked to have seen a few more different cars. I think it has been a bit of a GTR festival, this.
Yeah, it has been a little bit. Oh, it's nice to see some variety and some drivers mixing it up with the Toyota Supras, the Mazda Atenza, and of course that Volkswagen Vision GT Group 3 car as well. Come back to that in a few moments' time, because I've got a point to make on that, because here comes a battle between Heck versus Hayward down the outside of the first corner. That is brave and that is brilliant from Robbie Heck, moving his way through into 3rd position. Full commitment from the American driver. He finds his way up into the podium position. Of course, he is on the quicker, softer compound of tyre. You would expect him to be faster, but regardless, that took a lot of trust from him and Randall Hayward to make sure that they weren't going to come to blows at turn 1.
Yeah, just big confidence in the tyres there. It's what you need to have. You need to have that confidence. Otherwise, you can't use that advantage that you have on the softer compound. And Robin knew exactly what he was doing there, and Randall, of course, Randall's been very kind with the... Oh my word, that is what you call a save, ladies and gentlemen. Randall got onto the slippery stuff. I have no idea how he kept that pointing somewhere near a straight line, but he did, and didn't even lose that much time. Randall, that's a round of applause to me, mate. Well done. God, dearie me, I bet that made him clench a little bit behind the sim rig there. Hopefully he's all right. Here comes Leslie on the back of Grove as well. This is for P6 in the race. As you can see, both drivers have made their respective 1 stop so far in this race. I was just referencing about Group 3 cars actually, and one thing we should mention as well, you'll have seen it coming to light very shortly, is that there is going to be a brand new Group 3 car coming to GT Sport in the very near future as well, so keep an eye out for that. Maybe we'll see some drivers competing in that before too long. Meanwhile, here is Leslie still trying to put that pressure onto the back of Grove, coming out of the spoon curve in the slipstream he is going to be now. Clearly he is the quicker of the 2 drivers, but is he going to have the opportunity to find his way through? Pulls out of the slipstream, coming up towards 130R. They run side by side with one another, and Leslie, before he has even made the corner, does have the position, but he runs it wide. That's going to allow Grove to come back through. He's on the grass. They're running side by side in the braking zone, and a simple mistake there from Leslie allows Grove to reclaim that 6th place. Yeah, these guys have grip, but not quite that much grip. Oh, and you're seeing now what happens when you get onto the dirty stuff there. The tyres picking up a little bit of foreign material, and you see there Leslie just trying to get rid of it down the straight. A little bit of tyre warming going on to get back up to temperature again. But always scary when you do that. 130R is one of those corners that you feel very, very happy going through until you get it wrong, and you realise, oh man, I'm carrying 140 mile an hour here. Where am I going to go? And usually the answer is straight to the scene of the accident, as you would say, Tom.
Well, quite. Meanwhile, Scavalad in the pit lane there from P16. He's making his next stop in this race, going from the medium to the soft compound of tyre. Meanwhile, just out in the front of this one, Danny Solis, who's pulled out a 6.3 second gap over Andrew Brooks. Now, depending on if and when he needs to take fuel on board, this could be very promising here for Danny Solis. If he's 3 stopping and Andrew Brooks is 2 stopping, he needs about this gap, probably a little bit more than this, I'd say, to just hold off Andrew Brooks at the moment. So if he can continue building that over the next couple of laps or so, which he should be able to do given his pace advantage, he's about a second or so quicker than Brooks at the moment. He's in a good shape here, actually, I think.
Yeah, good spot there, Tom. I was just having a look at the timing, actually, and it just depends how fast he's going to be on that last tyre, of course. We know Danny's got to make two more stops, so if I were him now, I would be thinking about pitting for that medium compounder tyre. It depends now which way the tyres go. Now, there is a bit of a crossover point between the medium and the soft tyres, but the soft tyre starts to come just a little bit sketchy, a little bit difficult to get that power down. I'm noticing the gap is fluctuating between about 5.8 to 6 seconds at the moment. So it seems they're starting to approach that point. Now, when if you're in Danny's position now, you think, right, okay, when do I pit? Can I keep stretching this? Can I get a bit more time? Or is it worth me coming in now and just having a straight fight on track?
Those are the age-old questions, aren't they? What would you be doing here if you were in that situation, Jimmy? Where would your mind be? Usually I'd give you a sarcastic answer here, Tom. But if I was Danny, I think I'd be trying to focus on get that gap up to about 7 seconds if it's possible. What we don't know as well is that what people are doing on fuel. They both only have 1 stop so far, so I think it stands to reason that they're both kind of running a similar fuel load at the moment. But we do know Danny's got 2 more stops coming and pop a bit of fuel in as well. So we'll see. It's a numbers game, as it always is in racing, and the final numbers have yet to be revealed yet. So we'll keep you updated.
Yeah,
if you can get the lottery numbers for me as well, then Jimmy, that'd be appreciated, mate. To be honest with you, we can go and race GTRs for ourselves at some point instead. Goodness me. So Andrew Brooks sitting there in, as long as they're golden. So second place there for Brooks on the medium compound tyre. He's done a good job actually in this stint, but of course he is going to be that bit slower than Danny Solis. It's going to be very close when he comes in for his next pit stop. Don't forget, of course, he'll probably run as long as he can on this medium compound tyre, change over to the hard for the final lap of the race, whereas Solis, we know, of course, has got to run the medium, the hard. He's got to make 2 more stops in this race, but he's got, give or take, a pit stop in hand. I think he did take a bit of fuel on board in his first stop from memory there as well, so this is going to be very exciting indeed. Through 130R we go here with Andrew Brooks. Meanwhile, I want to have a look at the battle for 11th position between Holman and Parker, because that's getting pretty close between those 2 drivers. Fewer than 0.3 of a second. Here we go. We pick it up. Thanks, Mr. Director. And through 130R we go. Out of it now, and Parker is looking very close here to Holman. This is outside of the top 10, but look at how close he is. Into the slipstream, pulls to the inside. They run side by side with one another, coming down towards 130R. Is Parker going to be able to make the move stick on Holman? Into the left-hander they go, and he is through into 11th place.
Yeah, Holman literally gave that to Parker there, just pulled alongside, said, okay, here you go, I'm not going to bother fighting this. But you've seen both these cars a little bit, left a bit of paint maybe around the circuit, or maybe some of people's other cars, so it's been a bit rough out there. Luckily these things are pretty hefty, as you can see. You can get away with a little punt or 2. Not that I'd say that, of course, otherwise you're going to get the god of sportsmanship, Tom Brooks, come down and unleash rap upon you, so you've got to be careful with that.
Well, we always know that it's all about avoiding things that makes you look bad, or something along the lines of that, and not becoming a missile, I think, is the most crucial element for these drivers in this race. Meanwhile, here is Lynch in the Toyota Supra, closing up on the back of the Volkswagen Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 car of Carey. So Canadian versus American. This is for P8 coming through the Dunlop curve. You can see him there taking a few stabs at the throttle, just trying to work out when the opportune time to put the power down fully is, as those tyres probably coming towards the end of their shelf life now. Into the Degners we go, and it's interesting to see the difference in pace between those guys, because it's actually very similar. Only 0.5 of a second separating them last time around. 158.4 for Carey, 158.35 for Lynch. So pretty close between those 2. We'll keep an eye out, see if there are any moves are going to be made for that position. Meanwhile, here is Leslie in the peak, very pink GTR. Grove very close behind now. He's been able to find his way through Leslie on Grove here after going wide a couple of laps ago. He is now looking in good shape. Speaking of looking in good shape, here comes Danny Solis into the pit lane. No fuel left in that car, just 3 litres onto the medium tyres here, Jimmy, as well.
see how much fuel he puts in. Will he save it? No, he's going to put a little bit in now. I think he doesn't want to take fuel again, so he's going to try and fuel to the end. 7 seconds was the gap. Where is Brooks? Let's have a look. There he goes. Brooks just flying by in your frame there, so he's in front. So yeah, Danny needed a bit more time than that. But we know that Andrew Brooks has to take fuel too, so that 2 or 3 seconds or so should kind of be wiped away by the fuel stop coming up. So this is interesting now. It's going to be a bit of a straight fight on circuit. They both have to take one more compounder tyre, but Brooks in front has worn medium compounds of tyres, has to take fuel as well, and owes the hard compounds, same as Danny Solis behind. So, you know what? I think I should get a degree coming out of this, all this strategy. There's so much stuff to keep an eye on. This is genuinely harder than the degree I did at university.
Yeah, that's because you did a degree in photography.
Oh, ouch.
It's not taking photos, it's mental arithmetic, which, by the way, I was terrible at. And I can't say anything because I didn't go to university. Can you tell? Probably you can, I imagine. But this is getting quite interesting between these guys. Meanwhile, Grove is closing up onto the back of Leslie. That gap still sitting between them at 0.6 of a second here or so. This is interesting, isn't it? So fewer than 2 laps now remain in this Nations Cup Top 16 Superstars race, and it's all to play for at the front of this one between Andrew Brooks and Danny Solis. This is going to be a very exciting end to this one. I'm interested to see the difference in pace between Brooks and Solis. Just taking a look at the sector times last time around. They're just coming through Sector 2 in a few moments' time. Andrew Brooks, of course, in front at the moment. He did a 46.1 and Danny Solis did a 45.9, so he was 0.2 of a second faster in that sector. That gap still sitting at 2.3 seconds now. Is Brooks going to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap 14? He's not. He's going to go 1 lap longer. That's a good call there because, of course, he's only making 2 stops in this race, so wants to run that hard tyre for as little time as possible.
Now I mentioned fuel, Tom, but Brooks must have taken a chunk of fuel in his first stop to still be out there now. I mean, you can, I think, technically do this on a one-stop fuel-wise. Oh, in the background, Danny Solis! I just caught that! There he is, in the back of... Oh, Danny, you've thrown it away, mate. He's done what we've seen so many times. Remember back to Paris, our first World Tour event, just put a wheel onto the AstroTurf on the outside then. Same thing that happened to Kevin Pounder, just looped it, and I only just caught that. I just saw his flying, this flying blob in the background. It turned out to be Danny Solis. That's a real shame, but that was looking good for Danny. But that essentially now hands the win to Andrew Brooks, if he doesn't end up doing the same thing, of course.
That's really disappointing, because that's robbed us of a potential final lap scrap. Oh, Danny boy, what a disappointing end to the race there for him in P4. So, Andrew Brooks now leads the way. He's got an 11-second advantage over Randall Hayward at the front of this race, and he's pretty much home and drive. He just keeps it on the black stuff. He's only got 1 more lap to go. He's going to come into the pits at the end of this lap to run the compulsory hard compound of tyre. And all he has to do, as we said, is just keep it on the straight and narrow. This, of course, has had a good effect, a good advantage there for Hayward and Heck, because they inherit 2nd and 3rd position, respectively, in this one, at the expense of Solis's off at T1. And that just goes to show, Jimmy, the pressure these guys are putting on themselves, doesn't it, more than anything? And one simple mistake has clearly cost him very dear, potentially a shot at the win.
I mean, definitely a shot at the win. I think at this point that's that chapter done and dusted. But saying done and dusted again. But it's one of those things really where, as you say, it's so easy just to do that. It's so easy to make that mistake and just have that issue. Brooks now in for his last stop. 10 litres of fuel. I think even you won't put any fuel in now. I don't think. Probably just go around to the end now. It says 100 litres, but it's got to be 10 litres. There you go. But it's just one mistake. We're at such a high level here, and I know every time we've mentioned high level, there's been some sort of crash or something. But these are such a level where just being in this top 16 race is an achievement in itself. Like, I doubt us mere mortals can even think about that, let alone being at the front, let alone challenging for the win. Oh, Danny, what's going on, mate? 1.5 second penalty. Where have you picked that up from?
It's that, I'll tell you what it is. It's the snowball effect, isn't it? It's just getting bigger and bigger. One simple mistake, it's just snowballing into another now for Danny, and a 1.5 second penalty is going to potentially cost him a shot at 4th place here as well, because Mark Pinnell, as you can see, who has also made his final stop on the final lap of the race, is sitting there 1.4 seconds, so all he has to do is keep that gap as it is over the course of this one. And he'll be holding on to 4th position in this one. Meanwhile, this is a nice little battle going on for 2nd position on the last lap here between Hayward and Heck. Who's your money on here for this one, Jimmy?
You know, I'll say that Robbie's been looking quite aggressive this race, and I think he fancies it. He's been quite quick as well, and he is on a fresher set of those hard tyres, so really it's his to lose at this point. Randall Hayward has been, I think, a little bit not aggressive enough in this race for my liking. He's kind of rolled over a few times when positions have been had, but this is the last lap now, so I'm sure he's channeling a bit of a different mentality.
Let's see whether he's going to be able to do something then. So in towards the spoon curve again. Hayward just running a little bit wide. Heck looking relatively composed. Both those guys running pretty similar lines through there. It's all going to depend on the exit he gets out of here. Heck running a little bit wide there. Hayward goes defensive, pulls to the inside as you can see. But he's got the advantage of the slipstream as Heck here. This is the last or penultimate opportunity he's going to have to find his way through. He's going to draw alongside of Randall Hayward into 130R, but Hayward squeezes him out, pushes the nose off, coming back to the race leader though, because Andrew Brooks is about to come over the timing line and take the win in the Nations Cup Top 16 Superstars race. But it's Heck versus Hayward for 2nd place into the final chicane. Hayward, I think, is just going to hold on as Heck is muscled out through that corner over the timing line, and the drag we come down now, but Hayward just gets 2nd place ahead of Robbie Heck. Mark Pinnell does come home P4, and Danny Solis, for some reason, coming into the pit lane there on his final lap. He has served his penalty, and he finishes in 5th position here as well. But that was a really exciting battle for 2nd place to the line there.
Yeah, and a good battle there between Parker and Lynch right at the end of there. Only 8 hundredths between those at the end. But Andrew Brooks, this guy here, what a race from him. Used that 2-stop strategy, worked out fine, was assisted a little bit by the self-combustion of Danny Solis, unfortunately, just finding his race go from bad to worse. But that's definitely taken nothing away from Andrew Brooks. Another fantastic performance from the Canadian driver, and well worth the win.
Goes back to that old saying, if you want to finish first, you first have to finish. Andrew Brooks doing exactly that, taking the win and the spoils in the Nations Cup ahead of Hayward and Heck, then Mark Pinnell. Danny Solis, despite the result, takes the fastest lap in that race. He'll be there kicking himself after that one, I'm sure. He finishes in 5th position ahead of Kevin Pounder. Leslie and Grove inside the top 8. Then comes Carey, Holman, Parker, Lynch, Wenzel, Stewart, Helt and Scaveland down there in P16. So that's the result for the Nations Cup race. Let's see what it means for the championship standings. The championship standings after round 7, Andrew Brooks maintains his lead at the top of the pile ahead of Randall Hayward, who inherits 2nd position from Danny Solis after that 2nd place in the race, Jimmy.
He does, so they'll be happy with that with Randall Hayward. Danny Solis again will be kicking himself. He really will be after that. That was his race to lose and he lost it. But more rounds to go at least. Of course, he can focus on that. He's still within a fight with that gap now to the lead. 70 points between him and Andrew Brooks.
You can see the other winners and losers in the Nations Cup Top 16 Superstars for the North America region. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll have Manufacturer Series action coming right up. If you'd like to take part in the online series for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships, you firstly have to enter sport mode on GT Sport. You can represent your country or territory as part of that. We've got 3 stages for the online season. Stage 1 is in April and May, Stage 2 June, July, Stage 3 July and August, and then our top 16 Superstars races are below. The drivers from the highest points from each region will be selected for the top 16 Superstars races, and there are 5 regions in total. Welcome back to the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships. It's the North America region Top 16 Superstars Manufacturer Series race coming up. Jimmy, we saw some brilliant action in the Nations Cup just a few moments ago. Group 3 cars again for Manufacturer Series, but the Sardegna Road Track B layout. What do you reckon to this one?
Oh, we had some good races here so far, Tom. Better than I thought we'd actually get. A lot of tyre strategies coming into play around here, as we have seen so far since that Miyazono moment back in New York. Basically, a lot of 3-stoppers, a lot of 2-stoppers, but it depends very much on what car you're in, and that's why Manufacturers is a little bit unique, because everyone's in a different brand of car, not like in Nations.
No, exactly right. So let's get ready, shall we? Head over to the grid and see who is going to be lining up where. Here's how the drivers line up then for the Manufacturer Series race. Everybody, of course, in different machinery up and down the grid as well. This is going to be very interesting in these Group 3 cars. Pole position, Danny Solis. He'll be hoping for better luck this time around in the Nations Cup compared to the Manufacturer Series. Armin Aga Khan in the Toyota Supra. Nice to see him back in the top 16. Richard Castro lines up at the head of row 2 in the Nissan GTR. The Volkswagen Beetle of Carey lines up in third position, fourth position rather, I should say, on the second row. Hayward lines up P5 in the BMW M6, still repping the German manufacturer. And Troncoso in the Citroën GT Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 car, with Parker in 7th place in the Beetle. And alongside him, Andrew Brooks down there in P8. We know that Citroën is not as quick as some other Group 3 machinery, so he'll have a hard task, as will Nick McMillan from 9th position on the grid in the Aston V12 Vantage. Marzan lines up at the end of the top 10 in the Mercedes AMG GT3 car. Leach lines up in 11th position in the Audi R8. Alongside him is Robbie Heck in the Porsche 911 RSR. 13th place on the grid is Cortez in the Ferrari 458 Italia. Still love how that thing looks. Then it's Mark Pennell in 14th position on the grid in the Alfa 4C. The final row, Kevin Pounder in the Hyundai Genesis. Lovely looking car, that. And alongside him, Tristan Bayliss makes the top 16 for the first time in 2020 in the Porsche 911 RSR. Jimmy, tyres then. So, the leader, interestingly, Danny Solis, pole position I should say rather, starting on the medium tyres here.
We have noticed in previous races that the medium tyre isn't as big of a hindrance around here compared to the soft than we've seen in other drives. We've seen people hold position quite easily, especially the Subaru, which we know is fairly decent in a straight line as well, and around here is quite hard to pass unless you're at the end of a straight, and of course the Subaru being quick in a straight line means that it's going to be difficult for even someone on the softer compound of tyre. But second, third and fourth opting for that softer compound. Be interesting to see how aggressive they're going to take these first few laps.
Yeah, Armin Aga Khan, Richard Castro and Carey there in the soft compound of tyre, on the soft compound of tyre then, as the North America region race for the top 16 superstars for the 2020 FIA Gran Turismo Championships about to get underway. Subaru and Danny Solis leading the field over the timing line. That Subaru seems to have had a real resurgence in 2020 in Group 3 machinery. Can he take it to the checkered flag in first place in 22 laps time? We're about to find out then as the Manufacturer Series race here at the Sardegna road course gets underway. Solis leads the field over the line as they head over the brow of the hill and down towards that first corner then. Who is going to attack down into turn 1 is the crucial question. The rolling start does negate that ever so slightly. Looks like in the background one of the Citroens, Andrew Brooks, making a move up the inside for P7 on Parker, and I think he managed to get that one done and dusted there. Here's Nick McMillan also on Parker there as well. Of course, Parker on the hard tyre and is really struggling in these opening few corners as Marzan is now finding his way through up the inside, and in the background there as well, Robbie Heck getting ahead as well of Leach and then Parker. So Parker losing 3-4 positions in the first few corners there, as everybody else around him on the quicker compound of tyre is looking in good shape in these opening few laps.
Yeah, also Parker picking up a 2-second penalty, so that's pretty much a disastrous start there for the VW driver. He'll be serving that just coming up the hill outside of T8 here at the moment. Importantly, at the front of the field, Danny Solis has kept the lead from Armin Aga Khan behind in the Supra. The gap is about 0.3 of a second right now, but not looking like it's under any sort of pressure at the moment. As I said, round here it's quite hard to get to a point to overtake. Lots of long sweeping corners, and even in these Group 3 cars you do get a little bit of dirty air, only a little bit mind you, so it can be tricky to get close enough to overtake. That last corner there, that little kink at the end of a circuit, so easy to pick up a penalty there if you get a wheel onto the grass. So here comes Aga Khan then in the Toyota, looks to the outside, he has the run, should be able to pull by down towards T1, he should now be by, yeah, slots through, doesn't have to really make a move, just has the speed to get by before the corner, and Aga Khan then up into P1. Will Solis be able to hold on, or will he continue to fall back through the field?
That's going to be the crucial question here. It's damage limitation for Solis on that medium tyre, of course. And interesting strategy call. Nick McMillan there being given a penalty as well for one reason or another. He's down in P8 in the Aston Martin. That's indicated by the red dot flashing next to his name. Here comes Carey trying to send one up the inside of Castro. Bit of contact between them on the rear quarter there of Castro's GTR. And he is just able to continue holding that position. That would have been a little bit too aggressive for my liking with Carey trying to find his way back through. But clearly he is looking very comfortable behind the wheel of that Volkswagen Beetle at the moment. Now the crucial question is, Armin Aga Khan, whilst there is a bit of a gap between himself and the next soft runner of Richard Castro in third position, can he use that to his advantage and build out enough of a gap over Castro and Carey to have something useful in hand later in this race?
Yes, interesting Interesting idea there. We'll see if that does end up working out that way. You have to bear in mind that the different strategies come together right at the end. Meanwhile, someone's on the move is Andrew Brooks. Poor qualifying from him, but he's been rectifying that in the race so far in that Citroen. A beautiful looking car. I always love looking at that thing. It's a crazy concept. And just driving by Randall Hayward in a straight line there. So that thing not wanting for horsepower. It's the Citroen now as he comes up into 6th place and onto the back of Troncoso, also in a Citroen. And remember last time out in the Manufacturers Series, he done so well and then threw it all the way at the chicane of death, as we call it, at Dragon Trail. So maybe this time looking for a better result.
Through into the left-hander as we ride on board here with Andrew Brooks. It's such a unique looking Group 3 car, that as well, with the very low slung cockpit. You wouldn't want to be driving on board in this view too long, because you just have no peripheral vision around you at all, would you? But clearly Andrew Brooks making it work very well indeed. Those two Citroens lining in 5th and 6th place with Troncoso and Brooks. Here comes Heck trying to fight his way through the field from 9th position. Of course, he's on the soft tyre, so he's going to be quicker at this stage, you would imagine, than Nick McMillan, and that is crucial that he gets past and uses this soft tyre to his advantage. Look at how much more grip he's got. Was there a bit of contact maybe into that left-hander between himself and Nick McMillan? If not, it was very close between them, but you would imagine it's a matter of when and not if he is going to be able to find his way through here.
Just a little bit of contact there, and I've got to say, it's been I know the penalty system has become a bit of a meme in Gran Turismo Sport, but I think it's been much improved since those days. We're seeing now a little bit of touching, you can get away with it now instead of going from there. So 2nd place there, changing hands as Castro goes up the inside in that GTR. A lot of straight line speed in that car too. And Danny Solis, I think, just doing the right thing, not losing too much time. If someone's going for the overtake, you just can't let them have it. And he's out there just trying to be as quick as he can in that medium compound. It's kind of tricky because ideally you'd have a race on your own, not have to fight anybody and have to be slowed up at all over any course of any laps. But of course, when you're out here racing, that's not how that goes down. So here is Castro. Will he be able to now pull onto the back of Aga Khan in the Toyota? We'll see. Gap's a 2nd at the moment. And now Danny Solis is going to be under fire from Carey in the VW Beetle, coming down to T8, probably the best overtaking spot on the circuit. Not quite close enough to get by this time.
Through into there though, he's looking good coming out of it, and into the left-hander which follows. If he gets a good run through here, this is where he can look to try and pounce, and the crucial thing is for Carey here is he needs to not lose too much time to Danny Solis, because if he does, then he'll be off into the distance, and it's going to be that little bit harder as the race progresses onward. So through that left-hander and then into the quick right-handed kink. If Carey gets a good run out through here, they cut it so fine through there as well, and track limits are a very big topic of discussion here as well, because it's very easy to pick up a penalty by just dipping a wheel onto the grass there. On board we ride here with Richard Castro, who's got a good view in his rear view mirror of that taking place, but we've got an even better view of 8th position potentially changing hands here with Robbie Heck darting out of the slipstream. Thinks about it into turn 1, but doesn't quite manage to make that move stick, but he runs it wide as Nick McMillan on the corner exit. That allows Heck to pull alongside. They run side by side with one another. They're going to flick it left, and Heck is through into 8th place in the Porsche.
Really nice driving from Robbie Heck there. I think he just got into the mirrors of Nick McMillan, so Nick looked up and just overshot the corner slightly, got it a bit sideways on exit, and that allowed Robbie just to sneak up the inside there. So there a little bit of mind games going on at the moment in this Manufacturers Series race. Speaking of which, is Carey right on the rear spoiler of Danny Solis, and that Subaru should have an opportunity there. Danny there, that was very good positioning by Danny Solis. I think he might have had a little bit of a touch though going into the braking zone, because he's gone wide. Off he goes, and was there a touch there, Tom? It looked like it to me.
I think there was. I think there was just the slightest of kisses between the two of them, and well, if they reached 2nd base, I don't know what that means in terms of car racing. However, it did mean that he ended up off the circuit, and well, just the slightest of bits of contact at that sort of speed can have a real impact, can't it? Quite literally on the driver's race.
Well, you're in the braking zone. You brake as late as you can. If someone then goes, "Hey, here's 15 extra kilometres an hour," it's going to mean that you aren't going to make the corner. That's kind of what happened to Danny there. But here comes Troncoso and Andrew Brooks, of course, both of them representing Citroen. Now, Manufacturers Series is basically being the fastest person for your manufacturer. That's your goal if you're taking part in this series. And right now, these guys are in direct competition on track. And by manufacturer, Brooks there just sneaking the tip of his bumper alongside Troncoso, but not quite close enough to make anything from it. Brooks, I think, definitely the faster driver right now, though.
It's clearly looking much more comfortable, isn't he? They're both on the same compound of tyre. Just to give you an idea of lap times last time around, a 1:19.682 for Troncoso. Brooks, a 1:19.555, so just a little bit quicker. Meanwhile, look in the background there, Robbie Heck has got a lot of carrots dangled in front of him in the form of Randall Haywood. We're right on board with him, but going a little bit wide out of turn 8 is not going to help his charge for the moment, but he's making hay while the sun shines, is Robbie Heck at the moment, and just trying to sneak his way through on Haywood would be a good opportunity for him to be in a promising position in the latter stages of this race. Meanwhile, those two Citroens still fighting against one another. Troncoso, the American, versus Brooks, the Canadian. Into the pit lane then comes Troncoso, curtailing that battle for now, onto the softer competitive tyre for his middle stint in this race. And given how long he's been on that medium competitive tyre, I would imagine, just as a guess, he's going to two-stop in this race compared to Brooks, who is going longer. Is he trying to get the overcut here, or is he running a different strategy, do you think?
I think maybe just a slightly different strategy at this point. Of course, you're going to have to do something different if you're stuck behind someone. You can't just sit there and wait for them to make a mistake. That's, you've got to be a bit proactive in that situation. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. We'll see if he fits at the end of his lap. Robbie Heck, of course, on that soft compound tyre, does have a pace advantage at the moment over the guys ahead of him. That will be starting to drop off now as we get into lap 7 of this 22-lap race. Of course, tyre multiplier at ×5 once again. So it does mean that the tyres are going to be going off at an increased rate, as you might be used to at home. Coming up the hill now. Great flow to this track, really. Another fictional circuit, of course, by the guys over at Polyphony. And you might think that this is I'm being sponsored to say this, but as fictional circuits go, I don't think anyone really does it better.
I mean, you and I have been very fortunate to have visited Polyphony's offices in Tokyo, Jimmy, as well. We just see the commitment from the team there, really, more than anything, is just unrivaled. They spend so much time, so much attention to detail. I think that that's the thing with Polyphony when they comes to creating these circuits that we absolutely love to see. Meanwhile, come back to that thought in a few moments, because here comes Cortez with a great run out of the final corner, running side by side with Parker now. Ferrari versus Volkswagen in Group 3 cars. Didn't think I'd be saying that, but over the brow of the hill we go. He is through before the braking zone. Cortez with a good run, the good slipstream, and now 12th position ahead of Parker.
I feel like we've seen that fight somewhere before. I feel like we had a similar fight back at Dragon Trail, didn't we?
I think you could be right.
It tickled some sort of memory in my head there. So, anyway, we're back on board with Robbie Heck, and right now, while he's on that soft compound tyre, he's being held up by Randall Haywood in front. The thing is that M6 is a big boy. You know, it's quite hard to find a way around it when you're following it, and you're a bit intimidated by its size sometimes. So I think Robbie needs to really start throwing hands with Randall Haywood in front of him. He wants to try and get by. The thing is, what we said earlier about driving in the other person's mirror, is just start making those moves. Even if you aren't going to make them, just move across to the aggressive side of the circuit, move around in the mirror, get him looking at you backwards, get him making those mistakes, and you can try and get by. Because it's not happening on pace right now for Robbie Heck.
Meanwhile, Armin Agacan, he's been able to pull out a bit of a gap to Richard Castro in second position, but not quite enough to break that toe, because you can see Castro was 9/10 of a second behind Agacan going into that final corner, and then he was 6/10 of a second, so clearly there is still a slipstream effect happening for that GTR driver, and that's a good job there for Richard Castro. Both these drivers on the soft compound tyre in their first stint of this race, but I'm interested to see what this is going to mean for Agacan. The lack of an advantage may come back to haunt him in the latter stages of this race. We're on lap 9 out of 22, just to remind you, in this Manufacturers Series Top 16 Superstars event. Coming down through the left-hander, you're looking at your top 3 competitors, all of whom started outside of the first couple of rows of the grid, but are now competing at the front of this race, mainly thanks to the soft tyre that they have started on, whereas the likes of Danny Solis, Andrew Brooks and Randall Haywood, who again qualified pretty strongly, but have dropped back in the opening few laps of this one on the medium compound tyre, because it is just that little bit slower here. But the gap is, again, still not too pronounced. The difference in pace, by the way, between these two different tyre compounds, just to give you an idea, Armin Agacan last time around a 1:19.192 as Castro comes into the pit lane there from P2, but Danny Solis, the first of the medium runners, a 1:19.8, so around about 6 or 7 tenths of a second of a difference in pace between them.
No fuel in the car for Castro at all there, so interesting to see what he's going on.
Soft tyres as well, crucially here.
Yeah, soft.
So that means he's free stopping.
Yeah, free stop strategy. So he'll probably go again to about lap 20 now, and then go from there. Oh, he's come out of traffic instantly with Nick McMillan, but I think to say that was dispatched before I can finish my sentence is it's very fair. Through he goes, wasting no time. It's Richard Castro right now, so he needs to get by Hayward too, who has been in the way for Robbie Heck for pretty much the entirety of his stint. But on the fresh soft tyres versus worn mediums, there is no competition. Your car is going to be so much faster, be so much more confidence there in that GTR. He'll be by before we know it.
So here is Tristan Bayliss, meanwhile, who made a pit stop a couple of laps ago and is now all over the back of Parker. Look at how aggressive Bayliss is being coming through that left-hander, and he is through in the Porsche 911 into 11th place. That is brilliant there from Tristan Bayliss. We, of course, have seen him competing for Porsche in the World Tour events previously, and he has done very strongly for that manufacturer as the race leader comes into the pits. Also into the pits, Danny Solis and Carey as well as Andrew Brooks. So,
Castro, Tom.
Interesting. Yeah, let's see where he's going to emerge here, because, of course, he had traffic on that outlap as well. There's Brooks. There's Aga Khan. There's Carey.
Castro's ahead.
Now, Castro, he is, yeah, on that soft tyre. So that's paid dividends for him there. Even despite that traffic on his outlap, Jimmy, he's got a 1.2 second advantage. It's worked quite nicely for him here.
So he has that. I think this is a stroke of genius made for Castro, but it does seem that the guys behind are going to be going for that one stop, Tom, as you mentioned. Oh, sorry, two stop, apologies.
Well, this is the thing, though, is, of course, that, sorry to interrupt you there, Jimmy, is that Castro, of course, has got to extend that advantage, because if he's 2-3 stopping in this race, he's now got to have a pit stop in hand, essentially, to not lose that lead.
So we'll see.
So he needs to pull out a gap.
Well, what did Mick say yesterday? 6.5 seconds?
Something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, with no fuel. So that's what Castro has to do now. Well, he's got the car to do it. He's got a clear air in front of him. Carey and Akahan behind are going to be fighting. They're going to have Troncoso coming through as well behind him on the soft compounder tyre. So these guys are going to be being disturbed, whereas Castro just has to basically drive as fast as he can now for the next 10 laps or so. But it's a big ask to build that gap. But we'll see if we can do it.
What about Randall Hayward here as well? Qualified pretty well. He's now down in 9th position on the soft tyre as well. Here's Cortez getting out of shape coming through the final corner, and that is allowing the BMW driver to have a good run on the start-finish straight. Opts to go to the left-hand side as Cortez just leaves him enough racing room. They're going to go very close over the brow of the hill and into the braking zone. Surely this is where we're going to see Hayward pounce on the brakes. He is later on the brakes, and he is through into 8th position. That's a textbook pass, and that is probably one of the best overtaking opportunities on this lap. It's getting a good run through that final corner. Down to T1. Hayward there, Jimmy, executing it perfectly.
Yeah, just need to get that done. Need to get those moves done quickly and get on with it, essentially. You can spend a lot of time being stuck behind a guy in front of you and losing time in every corner, and sometimes also just better psychologically not to have a car in front of you so you can push a bit more. So interesting, Tom. I've been watching the gap between P1 and P2. Castro's already taken a second out of Carey and Akakan, but of course that's changed hands. Carey, that's incorrect. Carey has been second for a while now. But that's still a second and a half he's pulled out there. So if he can keep doing that, this could be looking good for Castro.
Certainly could. What about Troncoso as well? He's in a good position here on this soft competitive tyre. I don't think he's going to be battling for the race win, but he could be on for a podium here, and that will help him as well. Armin Aga running quite wide through that final corner. The soft tyre here for the Citroen. We know it's got good legs on a straight line as well. Coming down this start-finish straight, is he going to be close enough? Because, of course, the Supra in front has got the advantage of the slipstream as well in the form of Aga because he's got Carey right in front of him. That just allows that position and that gap to stay as it was between them. But Troncoso coming through these corners is just going to have so much more grip and confidence underneath him that you imagine it's a matter of when and not if he's going to be able to find his way past. Keep an eye out in the background there for Danny Solis here as well, your pole sitter, let's not forget. He is down in 5th position, so it's not worked out well for him so far, but of course being stuck behind traffic is not going to help him there either. So let's see how this is all going to play out. Coming up the brow of the hill in towards turn 8, are we going to see a lunge there from Troncoso on the brakes? Gets a good run through the left-hander, but he's not close enough. Just not close enough there. Aga doing a good job on that medium tyre.
Yeah, strategically, I'm not sure what Danny Solis' idea was there. I mean, maybe it's yet to be seen and we haven't quite seen what he's doing yet, but He's given himself a lot of work to do because now he's got to get by this entire group of cars. He's pulled onto the back of them very quickly, I must say. He's just sort of appeared from nowhere, so he'll be looking to get by as soon as he can. Already right on the back of that Citroen, almost pushing it through the last corner here. Let's see what this Subaru has in a straight line, shall we then? So we're in the draft at the moment. We've got a Citroen in front of us. In front of that is a Toyota, and in front of that is a VW. A train going down the straight. Great to see such diversity in car manufacturing here. It's one of the reasons I love this series. Nakakan going for a move on Carey. He'll get that done. Troncoso looking to follow him through. And again, Carey absolutely mugged. I think he got a little bit of a tap there from Solis as well on the way through. I think there was an incident there between the two. I'll have to have another look at it. But yeah, Solis there up to P4 and now onto the back of Troncoso.
Well, you were mentioning about a train on the start-finish straight there, Jimmy. There were certainly no delays in overtaking down towards that first corner. Very close between those guys. Good respect. And Carey, the big loser in that, losing 3 positions over the course of that race. And Aga Khan getting out of shape, losing time, losing traction. That's allowing Troncoso and Solis. They're going to go 3 wide. This is absolutely fantastic. Side by side, we come up towards turn 8. Troncoso on the inside, Solis on the inside as well. And they get through on Aga Khan into turn 8. So a simple mistake there has cost Aga Khan dear. He's now all at sea because Carey is going to try and go the long way round the outside. And whilst they've been squabbling, look who's in the background. Andrew Brooks, your Nations Cup race winner, and also Robbie Heck, who was on the podium in the Nations Cup as well. They're looking very strong here, so a few simple mistakes as they've been squabbling amongst one another has closed this gap up from 4 to nearly 6 cars.
Yeah, so this is what happens when people start fighting. The gaps just come back down again and get closer, and unfortunately for everyone else involved, it means that it's going to be held up time-wise, and Castro is going to be able to walk away with it. But of course, Robbie Heck here coming back through the field. Here's Aga He's been losing place on that medium compound tyre, which you sort of expect to do. There's Brooks as well now on Carey. Brooks coming back through. He's side-by-side with the VW driver. He'll have that done on the inside. Here comes Heck to Carey, just going backwards at the moment.
Deary me, I don't know what Carey's first name is, unfortunately. I know it begins with D. Is it Drew Carey? Because, well, his lack of pace in this middle stint, I think it's fair to say, is quite alarming. I know he's on the medium compound of tyre, but he's just making a few mistakes. Speaking of that, though, Robbie Heck just in the forefront there, making a few more as well as he runs wide. That's going to cost him time and potentially allow Carey to fight his way back through. On the brakes into turn 8 we go, up the brow of the hill. No way through there for him, so Heck lives to fight another day. This is great racing going on, and all the while this has been happening, Jimmy, we've hardly spoken about him that much, but Richard Castro, 5.2 seconds out in front.
He is. He has been joined by Danny Solis now, who's doing sort of similar-ish pace, but again, 5.5 seconds, so the damage has been done there. And it seems Danny's going to... Well, Danny did start on the medium compounder tyre, so at the moment, Danny Solis would come out the leader at this second if Castro can't pull out.
If he's
that
too
gap.
stopping.
Yeah. Danny is. He started on the medium compounder tyre. So he'll be going on that hard compound at the end, I imagine. But Castro, who has to do 2 more stops. Ooh, yeah, and now Danny is starting to take time out of him. So really at the moment, Danny Solis looking quite strong. So that's the strategy there presenting itself.
Yeah, working well there for Solis. Look at Andrew Brooks all over that gearbox of Armin Aga Khan's Toyota Supra into the right hand. A little bit deep going on through there for him. Down the hill we go. It's such an undulating circuit, this Sardegna road course. As we said, a fictional track on GT Sport. But, well, as a quote from the great man Jimmy Broadbent said, the cars might not be real, but the racing certainly is. And you can see that on track at the moment because Aga Khan is putting pressure on Troncoso. Brooks, in turn, putting pressure on Aga Khan. And all the while they're squabbling. Look who's clearing off into the distance, as Jimmy said as well. Danny Solis just able to build out a 1.7 second advantage over the Citroen GT driver, and Troncoso wide coming through that final, or the penultimate corner I should say, in towards the final corner has allowed Aga Khan to close up even more so. And once again another train of cars come barrelling down this start-finish straight to start lap 17 on this Manufacturer Series race. Is anybody going to think about a move here? Because look at Troncoso, who's having to go very defensive down into T1. Aga Khan's going to try and go the long way round the outside. On the brakes we go. Aga Khan on the medium tyres, but he's going to leave the door open for Brooks to come through here as well. We run 3 wide on corner exit. This is brave indeed. Oh, contact between them as Aga Khan gets shoveled out wide onto the dirty part of the track. Now Brooks is through into 3rd place. Here comes Heck down the inside of Troncoso. Side-by-side action on lap 17, and the Porsche is now going to be ahead of the Citroen, but is he going to be able to retaliate into the next corner? Look in the background as well, because up the inside for 6th position was Aga Khan. That was on Carey. Coming down the hill we go, in towards turn 8. This is great racing in the North America region. Aga Khan now versus Carey, side by side we go, door handle bashing between them, and Aga Khan does just maintain 6th position coming up the hill into turn 8.
And to say the elbows are out there, be a bit of an understatement, I think. These guys really getting feisty in the last few laps of this race here. Big winner for that, of course, Andrew Brooks now. He's able to go in pursuit of Solis and Castro, which will likely be a podium position for him. Big loser in my mind is Aga Khan. He really got bullied, I think it's fair to say, in that first sector there. Just put themselves in the on the outside at the wrong time and pushed off the circuit. But Brooks now just streaking away from this group, of course, helped out a bit by the fact these guys were squabbling behind him, but still 1 second already the gap to Heck behind, 2.4 the gap to Danny Solis, and this now is going to be the battle for the win between Castro, Solis and Brooks, and maybe even Heck in there as well, because Castro still has to make 2 more stops.
I think this is Solis's race to lose, personally, here. I don't think Castro's got enough in his back pocket. I'm prepared to be surprised, but I just don't know if he's going to have enough in the locker at the moment. Let's see what will happen, though, over the course of this one. So here is Armin Aga Khan, now potentially facing falling down to the lower clutches of the top 10. Bear in mind, of course, he and Carey are on the medium tyre. Everybody who is attacking behind is on the soft competitive tyre, so this has really come back to bite them in the backside, so to speak, in this middle stint, because there's a lot of faster drivers. Look at Nick McMillan there, of course, former GT Academy winner in America. He's looking very aggressive indeed behind the wheel of that Aston Martin. Just doesn't seem to have enough to pounce on Randall Hayward, but Hayward looking very close indeed to the back of Carey here. Riding on board with Troncoso, who's got a good view now. Castro comes into the pit lane, 3 litres of fuel on board. He's going for the hard tyre here. So he's going to have to take fuel on board, definitely. There's no doubt about that. This is going to be a long old stop, and it's going to hand Solis the lead, and also probably Brooks here as well. Let's see what other repercussions that has. Oh, he's going to lose 3rd position, 4th position, and is Aga Khan going to go through there as well? I think he could potentially do so. Yeah, Aga Khan goes through into 4th place. Yeah, it's not gone well at all there for Castro, and he's on a slow competitive tyre here too.
But he did take fuel. These guys will have to take fuel too. So his last stop, he'll be in the pits. There'll be no fuel for him, so he'll gain a bit of that time back. It looks worse than it is, I think, for Castro right now. But yeah, it didn't work out, I don't think. He didn't quite have enough pace on that stint. He needed to have another second there, and I think that Solis and Brooks coming through the field really didn't help. I think he was gambling on those medium runners to slow people up a bit more, but it didn't quite work out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come in at the end of this lap, switch to those mediums, and then just run to the end.
Meanwhile, here is Randall Hayward riding on board with that BMW M6. Jimmy called it a chunky boy earlier. Oh, dearie me, look at that. Carey getting all sorts of out of shape then coming through turn 8. That's going to allow the door to open for Hayward. They run side by side through that corner. Hayward getting a little bit of a slide on coming through there, but he gets through into 5th position. So Randall Hayward is back ahead. And now, of course, he needs to watch his mirrors, does Carey, because Nick McMillan on the soft combative tyres in the V12 Vantage is looming ever closer once again. And we know how much Nick loves to battle with other drivers. Heck comes into the pit lane here as well, as does Castro, so he does that compulsory lap on hard tyres, goes over to the medium tyres for the closing stints in this race. Here comes McMillan trying to dart down the inside on the brakes into T1. Does he get the move done? Oh, a very firm squeeze there from Carey, and McMillan has to relinquish. Doesn't manage to get past into P5 here as we ride on board with the American.
Yeah, sorry, I was just watching the pit stops while that was going on, Tom, and Castro taking that last stop. So he was 2 seconds faster on his stop than Heck in front of him. But it's not worked out because he's in the back of his little pack now. Meanwhile, Parker and Heck, Robbie Heck there, we just mentioned before, he's picked up a 1 second penalty. Where's he got that from? Must have cut the grass a little bit somewhere. That's going to be big for his race. It's going to slow him right down, put him firmly out of contention for any sort of... Oh, he's on the grass again. He's sideways. Contact with Parker. And with the Ferrari of Cortez, he's still having an accident across the line there. Oh, that's gone from bad to worse. And handed a bit of recovery to Castro, facing the wrong way as cars streaking by him. I've been in that position before. It doesn't feel very good at all. And that's a big shame for Robbie Heck. A strong race until then. But again, as we've seen, all come undone with one mistake.
Dear, oh dear. That is, again, what we were talking about the Nations Cup race, the snowball effect. Exactly the same thing there for Heck. A penalty being given for one reason or another, whether that was for contact or track limits, I'm not 100% sure, but just compounded his woes as it got worse. Carey into the pits as well. He goes from the medium to the hard tyres for the closing stages. We're on the penultimate lap there as Aga Khan goes a bit wide. Randall Hayward is in a really good position here potentially. Don't forget, of course, a lot of these guys have got to make their second and final stop in this race. But of course, Aga Khan is all at sea on this medium tyre, whereas Hayward is on the soft. He's up the inside as Aga Khan runs it wide. BMW versus Toyota in the Manufacturer Series, and still Aga Khan doing a really good job of just defending that final podium position for now here.
I'd be a bit flustered if I was Aga Khan, to be honest. He's been battered about in this race, so really people just putting noses on him when they don't really have the opportunity to do so, and it's causing a lot of little mini contacts, but he's done a good job of keeping things on the straight and narrow. Still running third. He does still have a stop to make, as does the guy behind us, Randall Hayward. So we're going to have to see how they come out on fuel. Fuel is going to be the factor here, because they're so close together at this point that a litre more fuel will be the difference between who comes out ahead in the pit stops. They both have the hard tyre to run. Speaking of hard tyres, Danny Solis in the bits, he'll be taking that hard tyre. 6 litres. How much fuel does Brooks have? 5 litres. Okay, so Danny's got an advantage there. Will he put any fuel in for the stop at all? I don't think he's going to put anything in. Just watching that fuel gauge right now. No, nothing. Coming right back out again on 6 and 5 litres of fuel. So 1 lap of fuel there for both of them. No difference if we settle on track then. 2.5 seconds. I think this is Danny Solis' race to lose.
Yeah, hard tyres for the final lap, but of course it's a bit of a moot point because everybody else around him. Look at this going on as well. Here comes Troncoso on the inside. That is aggressive. That is barging his way through on Randall Hayward. Firm but fair. The shake of your head I can see here, Jimmy. You're not a fan of that one?
Nah, moved him off the circuit there. I say Robin is racing. Reckoning, he just pushed him off the track. You can't come from that far back and use the other guy as a brake. No penalty handed there, so the GT Sport penalty system was deeming it okay, but you know, I think if this was live stewarded, we'd probably get a different response from that. But anyway, Randall Hayward, it's not over yet. He's still got another corner where he can come back at him. And I've got the feeling if I was Randall, I'd think, oh, you want to play that way, do you? I think he's going to have a go at it, maybe. Here we go. No, he doesn't. A bit too far back.
A battle for the podium positions on the final lap is what we like. Is Arman Aga Khan, despite everything throwing against him in that middle stint, going to just hold off the charge? Meanwhile, the man who has been on top form in this race, he righted the wrongs of the Nations Cup race and he comes over the line in the Manufacturer Series for the North Americas region. Danny Solis takes the checkered flag here at Sardinia. A brilliant performance from the Subaru driver. Andrew Brooks comes home in second position for Citroën, and Arman Aga Khan, despite the middle stint on the medium tyres, comes home third for Toyota in P3. Brilliant result for him. Troncoso, Hayward, Castro, Carey, McMillan, all very close to one another. Bayliss and Pinnell round out the top 10, and very close there for 12th position as well between Pounder and Leach, Jimmy, to the line.
Yeah, that was very close at the end there. Of course, the big loser from all of that is still yet to cross the line. I think he's just coming across now. Robbie Heck, unfortunately for him, terrible bit of luck, of course, just catching the grass in the wrong place and getting the car sideways, but that takes nothing away, of course, from Danny Solis. As you said, definitely righting the wrongs of that Nations Cup race.
Final results you can see on your screen at the moment. Solis, Brooks, Aga Khan, your podium. Troncoso, Hayward, Castro, Carey, Nick McMillan down there. Look at those different manufacturers. That is what we absolutely love about the Manufacturer Series. Lots of different machinery fighting against one another. Bayliss for Porsche finishes P9. Mark Pinnell, good result there for Alfa Romeo, given that Group 3 pace in P10 ahead of Marzan, Pounder, Leach, Cortez, Heck and Parker down in P16. So that is the final standings for the Manufacturer Series race for the North Americas region. Let's see what it means then for the championship. And after 7 rounds, you can see that Andrew Brooks cements his lead at the top, but Danny Solis tied on points there, 843. So it can't get any closer, Jimmy.
Yeah, 2 teammates on the same points. I think they'll be pretty happy with that, of course. Also, Aga Khan with that third position moving up as well in the standings. Tristan Bayliss, by the way, who did actually move down here in the championship standings. I think he had the best race of anyone. He went from last on the grid to P9 in that. We sort of missed that. So, yeah, I think it was the biggest mover, but unfortunately not enough to keep his position in the championship.
So you can see that Hayward, Carey, McMillan and Helt all moving up in the order there as well. A few other drivers moving up and down. But there we are. That brings an end to the Manufacturer Series for the top 16 superstars and indeed the entire top 16 superstars for the North Americas region. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We'll be back for round 10, the end of stage 1 of the online championship on the 31st of May. From Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we'll see you next time.